The sky over Tarnus 3 glowed sickly orange, lit by the dying embers of its shattered moon and the ever-churning industrial fires below. From orbit, it looked like a planet on the brink of collapse. Up close, it smelled like rust, smoke, and desperation. Trent Vero stepped off the ramp of his ship, the Driftweaver adjusting the collar of his jacket as hot wind kicked up dust around his boots. His satchel clanked with the weight of scavenged alloys and tech cores, rare finds from a forgotten warfront drifting along the Deltarian edge. He wasn't looking for trouble. Just a trade, maybe a warm meal, and hopefully no one trying to shoot him before sundown. The Tarnus market was chaos as always, crowded platforms stacked on rotting scaffolding, shouted deals in 17 languages, and flashing neon signs advertising everything from plasma carbines to pre-collapse poetry crystals. A vendor with 6 arms tried to sell him synthetic whiskey brewed from fungus. Trent waved him off and kept walking. It was the yelling that drew his attention. Not the volume, there was always yelling, but the tone. A voice sharp enough to slice through metal, layered with fury and pride, echoed across the loading bay. He turned a corner and found the source. A containment cage stood center stage beneath a tarp-stretched canopy. Inside, a small figure paced like a caged animal. She couldn't have been more than 4 feet tall, with violet skin that shimmered faintly under the lights. Her white hair was braided tightly, a glowing thread woven through it. But it was her. Eyes that stopped Trent cold, brilliant gold, glowing like twin suns. The auctioneer, a bloated man with cybernetic lungs, slammed a baton against the cage bars. Lunari bonded relic girl, fully functional, memory-linked. Make her your translator, your pilot, your pet. Who'll start the bid at 10,000 credits? I'll rip out your spinal cord and wear it as a belt, the girl snarled in flawless Vargathy, then repeated it in 2 more dialects Trent barely recognized. She spat through the bars. I'm not a translator. I'm a person, you rotting slug. The crowd laughed. The auctioneer grinned. Trent didn't. He didn't know why he stepped forward. Maybe it was the way she stood her ground, even inside a cage. Maybe it was how her anger burned hotter than fear. Or maybe it was the way her glowing eyes locked with his for the briefest moment and something inside his chest cracked open. 20,000. Trent said, louder than he meant to. Silence. Then a mutter of surprise rippled through the watchers. The auctioneer blinked. Sold, to the trader with more credits than sense. The cage hissed open. Zari stepped out slowly, her fists clenched, her chin high. She stopped in front of Trent, her eyes hard. You're an idiot, she said. I'll escape the second your back is turned and leave you bleeding in a ditch. Trent shrugged. Fair. But I'm not chaining you again, she blinked. Something flickered across her face, confusion maybe. Or something deeper. Her gaze lingered on him a second longer than necessary. She turned. Walked past him. Didn't run. He followed. Neither said anything for a long while, but when they reached the ship, she didn't try to bolt. And when she stepped onto the Driftweaver, she paused just once and whispered something in a language Trent didn't understand. She flinched a second later, like she felt a pain that wasn't hers. Trent didn't press. He just closed the ramp behind her and piloted them both into the stars. The Driftweaver drifted through the void with a quiet groan of aging metal and stubborn will. Its hull bore scorch marks and patchwork repairs, but it held steady, just like its pilot. Trent Vero sat alone in the cockpit, boots propped on. The console, eyes half-lidded as distant stars slid past the viewport like forgotten memories. Behind him, faint footsteps echoed through the corridor light, careful, precise. Not the gait of someone unfamiliar with danger, but of someone who expected it around every corner. You steal this ship or win it in a bet? Trent didn't flinch. Neither. I built most of it myself from junk, bad decisions, and a very forgiving engine core. Zari stood in the doorway, arms crossed, glaring at the mess of wires, toolkits, and snack wrappers cluttering the floor. She looked out of place here like a shard of something ancient, jammed into a world too modern and too careless. This place is a disaster. Trent cracked a smile. Thanks. I call it character. Zari didn't laugh. She stepped inside, her glowing golden eyes scanning the displays. Her gaze paused at a relic resting near the console, a small, fractured orb humming faintly with blue energy dots. She froze. Where did you get that? Trent turned his head slowly. Salvaged it off a wreck near the crash line. Why? Zari didn't answer immediately. Her hand drifted toward the orb, stopping inches away. Her eyes dimmed, narrowed. It's not just a relic. It's a memory key, Lunari designed, ancient, and that isn't meant to be outside of stasis. Before Trent could respond, the orb pulsed. Not brightly, not dangerously, but in a rhythm that made the hairs on the back of his neck rise. Zari recoiled, her breath hitching. Hey, are you all right? Trent stood, concern lacing his voice for the first time since they'd met. I felt something. She backed away from the orb. Like it had burned her. That relic ... It remembers things. It remembers me. The lights flickered. For a split second, Trent thought he saw something in the glass, a reflection that didn't belong. Explain, he said, his voice suddenly very quiet. Zari didn't speak at first. Then she looked at him, and all the sarcasm and fire in her voice melted into something brittle. My people, she whispered, weren't just scholars. We stored knowledge in our minds, our genetics, our voices. That's why we were hunted. That orb isn't just technology. It's a piece of a consciousness, a message wrapped in memory. And it reacted to me because... She trailed off. Because you carry it too, Trent finished. Zari nodded. More than I realized. The ship's console lit up, sensors detecting a ping. Incoming signal. The AI chirped. Encrypted. Origin unknown. Trent dropped back into the pilot's seat. Someone's looking for us. Zari's voice was barely above a whisper. No, they're looking for that. The signal spiked. A sharp chirp echoed through the cockpit, followed by static, then a voice. Relic signature detected. Prepare to surrender your vessel. You have one chance, greater than. Trent's hands moved without thinking. Engines lit, shields up. He turned to Zari. Still planning to leave me in a ditch? Still might, she shot back, but she didn't leave the cockpit. She strapped into the co-pilot's chair, her small fingers flying across the nav console with practiced speed. There's a blind jump route through the Remra drift, unstable, narrow, uncharted. Can you fly it? Can I fly it? Trent grinned, adrenaline kicking in. Zari, I'm offended. The ship lurched as distant starships came into view, sleek. Angular, painted black. Syndicate. Now? Zari said. The Driftweaver screamed into motion, barreling toward the edge of the uncharted sector. Behind them, the Syndicate cruisers followed, weapons charging. Inside the ship, Zari reached for the orb again. This time, she didn't pull away. She let it touch her palm, and when she did, a flood of memory surged through her mind, not hers. Not fully, but voices and faces and stars long dead. One phrase echoed louder than the rest. The vault must not awaken. Not yet. Her breath caught. I think we're in more trouble than we thought, she said. Trent glanced at her. How much? More? Zari turned her eyes toward the oncoming warships. If we live through this, I'll let you know. The Driftweaver groaned as its hull tore through the edges of the Remra drift. An uncharted starstream filled with the twisted wreckage of old warships, fractured moons, and forgotten minefields drifting silently through a nebula so dense it choked light itself. Navigation alarms screamed in protest. The cockpit flashed red. Plasma arcs danced like lightning outside the viewports. But inside, Trent Vero didn't blink. Brace, he muttered through clenched teeth, knuckles white on the control stick. Beside him, Zari was dead silent, her golden eyes locked on the navigation screen, her lips moving in quiet Lunari speech calculations, prayers, both. Her fingers darted over the console, feeding ancient coordinates into the ship's drive. This route shouldn't have existed, and yet, somehow, the relic remembered it. And so did she. Behind them, the Syndicate ships weren't just chasing, they were predicting. Their formations tightened through the drift, flanking patterns too sharp for AI, too aggressive for autopilot. "They're reading our jumps," Trent said, sweat dripping down his temple. "Someone on their side knows this space." Zari didn't answer. She was listening again. The orb sat in her lap now, glowing brighter than ever, its etching swirling with pulses like a heartbeat. And inside that glow, she heard something, not words, but emotion, urgency, warning, familiar pain. "The vault," she whispered. "Someone opened it once, a long time ago. The memories were sealed to protect the others. But now it's starting." Again, Trent spared her a glance. "Starting what, exactly?" "I don't know," she admitted, her voice tight. "But if the Syndicate gets control of what's locked inside, it's not just about knowledge. It's command over time. Over matter." Trent didn't like the sound of that at all. The Driftweaver lurched as something slammed into the starboard side. One of the Syndicate hunters clipped them with a glancing shot, just enough to remind them they were prey. "Shields down to 63%, the AI called. "Structural integrity compromised. Recommend course correction within 40 seconds to avoid hull collapse." "Course correction into what?" Trent growled. "We're flying through a floating graveyard." Zari stood suddenly, unstrapped herself, and staggered toward the rear chamber. "We have to divert now." Trent blinked. "Zari, I kind of need you not doing something insane right now. I can buy us time," she shouted, disappearing down the corridor. "Just fly." Cursing under his breath, Trent yanked the control stick hard to port, dodging a jagged asteroid. No larger than a drop pod. Alarms shrieked. The stars twisted. Then the ship screamed, not a system failure, not metal stress, but something deeper. Something alive. And Trent felt it like a punch to the chest. A wave of cold, sorrowful memory flooded through his mind. He saw images that weren't his crystal spires crumbling under shadow, children screaming in languages older than light, and a world folding in on itself like paper. He gasped, almost losing the controls. Then Zari's voice cut through the fog, sharp and anchored. "I stabilized the orb's resonance field. It was syncing with the drift." "That's what they want." "It's not just memory, Trent. It's a signal." Trent coughed, eyes watering. "You couldn't have told me that before my brain got turned inside out?" "We're linked now," she said softly as she re-entered the cockpit, her steps unsteady. "That's how the orb keeps itself alive. It shares. You and I, we're part of it now." His hands trembled. "So what? It's rewriting us." Zari sat back down, pulling her knees to her chest. "Not rewriting, remembering, through us." Outside, the last fragments of the drift thinned into the void, and ahead, a system shimmered into view. A dead star, its light long extinguished, orbited by a ring of debris too symmetrical to be natural. In the center, a structure, black, silent, sleeping. A vault. The one from the orb's memory. "This is it," Zari whispered, voice hollow. "The first lock." Before they could speak again, the ship jolted. Another Syndicate vessel dropped out. Of slip space, sleek, black, faster than the others. Unknown ship detected, the AI warned. Signature matches command class vessel designation, Scourge of Virel, weapons primed, transmission incoming. A hologram shimmered to life on the dash, a tall figure in silver syndicate armor. His face was smooth, inhumanly pale, with eyes like polished obsidian. Relinquish the Lunari and the memory core, and your death will be swift, the voice intoned. Refuse, and we will unmake you. Zari's eyes narrowed. That's Kael. Trent's breath caught. Kael? The Kael? The butcher of Solari. The one who led the purge. Her voice shook with fury. He's the one who killed my mother. The figure paused, sensing recognition. I see you remember me, girl, Kael said. I remember you too. A relic child who should have died screaming. Zari stood. Trent rose beside her, and the relic pulsed between them faster now, responding not just to memory, but to rage. We're not giving you anything, Trent said, his voice cold as the void. Kael's image faded, replaced with the countdown to missile. Lock. They'll fire on us, Trent muttered. And we're not ready for a fight. Zari looked at him, her voice calm and deadly. Then we don't fight. We open the lock first. Trent blinked. Zari, if we open that vault and we don't know what's inside, we don't have a choice, she snapped. If he gets here first, he'll erase everything my people tried to preserve. Trent stared at her. At the glow of the orb. At the cold fire in her eyes, then he nodded. All right. Let's see what the stars have been hiding. The black vault hung in the dead silence of space, older than any map, darker than any star, and colder than the space around it. No light touched its surface, and yet it pulsed once like a heartbeat echoing across time. Trent guided thee. Driftweaver in close, the ship's sensors flooding the console with incomprehensible data. Every scan returned the same result. The structure should not exist. No power source, no identifiable material. No artificial emissions, but it was there. Watching them, Zari stood in the cockpit, clutching the relic orb in both hands, her eyes locked on the massive ring structure slowly rotating against the void. The closer they got, the brighter the orb glowed. Not in warning, not in fear. In recognition. This is the first vault, she said, her voice barely audible. Not just a storage site. Not a tomb. It's a memory core. An echo chamber. This place feels everything we do. Good, Trent muttered. Maybe it'll feel how close I am to pissing myself. Zari didn't laugh. The docking procedure initiated itself, no input required. The vault had accepted them. That alone should have made Trent turn the ship around and bolt for the nearest sun. But he didn't. As the airlock opened, a wave of pressure met them, not physical, but mental. Emotion bled into the corridors. Grief, joy, anger, fear, ancient, layered. It made Trent stagger. Zari placed a hand on his shoulder and steadied him. Her skin was warm, her voice was calm. The vault remembers you too. They stepped into the darkness. The interior was vast. Seamless black stone stretched in all directions, lit only by faint veins of glowing Lunari script snaking across the walls like constellations trapped in obsidian. The floor shimmered as they walked, responding to each step with a soft echo that didn't bounce but lingered, almost curious. This place isn't dead, Trent said, eyes wide. It's alive. No. Zari corrected. It's listening. She approached a raised platform at the chamber center. The orb vibrated in her hands. She placed it in a socket at the pedestal's apex. A pulse of light rippled out in silence, washing over the chamber. The vault responded. All around them. Memories awoke. Holographic images of Lunari elders appeared tall. Elegant figures with silver eyes and skin like starlight. Their voices sang in harmonic layers, untranslated but deeply felt. Behind them, scenes unfolded. A thriving civilization, knowledge passed through generations like breath, and the forging of a weapon too powerful to control. The images darkened. Betrayal. A figure cloaked in syndicate armor walking through fire. Kael. He stood before the Lunari Council. Smiling, Zari staggered. No. He was one of the original traitors. He didn't just hunt my people. He helped kill the seal that kept the vaults from waking. Trent's mouth went dry. He was there when this was locked away. Zari nodded. He helped build the trap. But not the key. That was hidden. In me. The hologram shifted again. A final warning. The key will awaken when memory and will align. The vault is not protection. It is prison. Trent swallowed. What the hell is in here that they had to imprison? Zari turned to him, her voice hollow. Not what. Who? She reached toward the center pedestal and laid her hand against the orb. It shuddered. Lights exploded around the chamber. Then, everything went still. A whisper filled the air, not sound. Thought. Zarika, daughter of the lost line. You are the carrier of the final seal. She fell to her knees. Her eyes glowed brighter than ever. Her voice trembled. It knows me. It remembers my blood. Trent rushed to her side. What is it? Trying to do? Unlock. Before he could stop her, the floor split apart. From the darkness below rose a massive crystalline pillar encased in obsidian. Inside it, a humanoid figure suspended in stillness, not dead. Not alive. Waiting. Zar. I single quotes as breath caught. That's her. Her who? Trent whispered. Zari's face was pale. Her lips moved soundlessly. My mother. The crystalline tomb pulsed once. A cascade of light ran up the walls. Behind them, the vault's outer sensors triggered. Trent's wrist console beeped furiously. Syndicate ships inbound. Multiple. 15. No, 20. They found us. The lights in the chamber dimmed as the orb detached itself from the pedestal and flew back into Zari's hands. She clutched it to her chest. We have to wake her, she said, her voice trembling but resolute. She locked herself in the vault. If anyone knows how to stop Kael, it's her. Trent turned to the entrance. Already, the faint tremble of approaching boots echoed down the corridor. No time, he said. We can't fight 20 ships. Zari looked at him, fierce and unblinking. We don't have to fight. We just have to unlock. Trent nodded once, then do it. She turned to the crystal. Press the orb to its surface. It shattered. The figure inside collapsed forward into her arms. And opened her eyes. The air inside the vault shifted, not with sound or movement, but with presence, a deep, ancient force awakening from the weight of centuries. Zari's mother crumpled into her arms, her body trembling with exhaustion, her skin pale and flickering, with faint pulses of light. For a heartbeat, Trent thought she was dead. Then she inhaled a long, ragged breath like wind escaping from a sealed tomb, and her silver eyes snapped open. Zarika, the woman whispered. Her voice was brittle, cracked with time, but unmistakably hers. You broke the seal. Zari could barely breathe. Mother, you're alive? The woman, once High Keeper of the Lunari, cupped her daughter's face. Alive only in fragments. What I was. Remained to preserve what we lost, but you, her eyes flared. You brought him here. She turned toward Trent. He stiffened. Under the weight of her gaze, it wasn't hostility. It was something deeper, like she was reading every moment of his life in a glance. I trust him, Zari said quickly, stepping between them. He saved me more than once. He's not like the others. A pause. Then her mother closed her eyes. Then I trust him too. A sudden tremor rumbled through the vault. Dust rained from the high ceilings. Warning glyphs lit up along the walls. In Lunari script, "Syndicate breach in progress," Trent said, scanning his wrist console. "They're cutting through the outer airlocks. We've got minutes, maybe less." The High Keeper slowly pulled herself upright. "Then I must give you what I came here to protect." She reached toward the pedestal behind her, now split open, and pulled from its heart a slender, crystalline device no larger than a dagger. It hummed with the same resonance as the orb. "This," she said, placing it in Zari's hands, "is the seed of continuum, the last true link to the Lunari core. With it, you can awaken the network hidden across the stars. Vaults, memories, armories, weapons of knowledge. But only if your will is stronger than theirs." "Theirs?" "Trent?" She turned to him. "Kael's not just chasing power. He's serving something. A silence older than the vaults. A force that hunts memory, rewrites it. It came once before. We locked it away. But now," the walls shook violently. Sirens howled. "They're here!" Zari shouted. "We have to go now." Her mother didn't move. "I can't leave," she said. "My presence stabilizes the vault. If I go, the whole structure collapses, and they will recover the remnants." Zari froze. "Then I'm not leaving either." "Yes, you are." The High Keeper stepped forward and placed her palm to her. "Daughter's Temple, you are the last of our line. The galaxy doesn't need a queen. It needs a flame." Trent grabbed Zari's arm. "We have to go. She's stalling them for us." "No!" Zari pulled back, her voice breaking. "I just got her back." "And she's giving you something bigger," he said, his voice tight. "The chance to finish this." Above them, the vault ceiling cracked. Syndicate drones swarmed through the breach, weapons scanning. The High Keeper raised both hands. The runes along the chamber flared one final time. "Run!" Zari let out a raw scream of defiance and heartbreak. But she turned. They sprinted through the vault's inner corridors, the orb and the seed pulsing between them like twin hearts. Drones pursued. Blaster fire rained down, striking walls and shattering crystalline pillars. Trent fired over his shoulder, guiding Zari through collapsing passageways. "She's buying us time," he muttered, breathless. "Don't waste it." The Driftweaver's docking bay was still intact. The moment they reached it, Trent activated the boarding sequence. Behind them, a deep, echoing hum rolled through the vault like thunder, weeping dot as they ascended the ramp. Zari looked back. For one agonizing moment, the vault door stood open. A white light surged upward pure, blinding dot, then the vault imploded. The Driftweaver rocketed away from the blast radius. Its engines pushed past safe limits. Inside, silence. Zari slumped in the co-pilot's chair, staring at the seed cradled in her lap. "She's gone," she whispered. Trent reached over, hesitated, then placed a hand over hers. "No," he said quietly. "She passed on what mattered. To you." Zari turned to him. Her eyes were wet, but steady. "She said something's coming," she said. "Something worse than Kael, something that eats memory." Trent nodded grimly. "Then we'd better find the other vaults before it does." Zari gripped the seed tighter. "Then we start now." Outside the viewport, the vault's remnant still burned like a shattered star clinging to life. But ahead, new coordinates pulsed from the orb. A path, a war dot, and at the center of it, a girl barely 4 feet tall and a human pilot who'd forgotten how to quit. The Driftweaver drifted through deep shadow, its hull still scarred and smoking from the escape. In the void behind them, the remains of the vault still glowed, a drifting halo of debris orbiting the dead star like shattered memory. But there was no time to grieve. Not truly. Zari sat cross-legged in the center of the ship's narrow central chamber, the seed of continuum resting in her lap like a slumbering flame. Her golden eyes flicked open and shut, her breaths shallow. Across from her, Trent leaned against the bulkhead, watching her like a man guarding fire from the wind. It had been hours since they'd jumped to dark space. Following the next set of coordinates burned into the relic's memory. But Zari hadn't moved. Finally she spoke. She's still inside me. Trent blinked. Your mother? Not her, Zari murmured. The vault. The echo of it. Of all of them. She opened the link before she collapsed the structure. Now the seed is. Listening, Trent stood, the overhead lights flickering gently. Is that safe? Zari didn't answer. Instead, she lifted. The seed. At her touch, it bloomed, folding outward like a mechanical flower, its edges spinning in geometric symmetry. Glowing patterns spilled across the ship's floor like starlight, forming a map so vast it curved upward along the walls. There, she said, pointing to a single flickering glyph. That's the next one, Vault 2. Trent squinted at the symbols. That's deep inside the Aris expanse. Unaligned territory. Pirate sovereigns, radiation fields. No established lanes. Exactly, Zari said. Which means Kael won't risk a fleet. He'll send specialists. Trent tilted his head. And we go before they do? Zari looked up at him, her voice steady. We win before they do. But even as she said it, the ship's AI interrupted. Warning. Long-range scan detected. Non-allied vessel within pursuit range. Trent's fingers flew over the console. No signal ID, stealth tech, Zari stood. He's already here. The viewport shimmered, and from the blackness beyond, a ship emerged. Unlike the others, this one was silent, blade-like, covered in obsidian plating that bent the stars around it. At its core pulsed a faint red glow, not a reactor, but something older. Something watching. Kael's private hunter, Zari whispered. I read about it in the vault. It's called the Unspoken. Trent's jaw clenched. Fitting. Makes me want to scream already. The Unspoken made no demands, no transmissions. Just action. A volley of silent torpedoes shimmered into space like phantoms. Trent launched the Driftweaver into evasive rotation, diving through wreckage trails and asteroid spires. The ship shook, lights flickered, and alarms screamed. Can we outrun it? Zari yelled. No, Trent grunted, but maybe we can hide. They dove into a nearby gravity rift, a warped region where the corpse of a planet collapsed into spiraling dust and static charge. Trent guided the ship into the storm. Inside, everything blurred. Metal groaned. Light fractured. And still the Unspoken followed. Zari clutched the seed to her chest. I can stop them. Trent blinked. How? I can open the next vault now. It will pulse a signal strong enough to scramble the Unspoken's pursuit logic. Trent looked at the instruments. You're talking about activating a vault from here without being near it? I'm not near it, she said, but the seed is. He hesitated. It could kill you. Her eyes burned with certainty. It could save us. And then she placed the seed on the deck. It bloomed again. Wider this time, its light blinding. It pulsed, and the Driftweaver vanished from the enemy's tracking grid. The Unspoken paused. For the first time, it stalled. Inside the ship, Zari collapsed. Trent caught her before she hit the floor. Hey, he whispered. You're all right. Stay with me. Zari's breath was shallow, but her voice still came through. We bought time, she said, but they'll adapt. We have to get to Vault 2 before the seed burns out. Trent nodded. Then I'll fly us through every hell between here and there. Zari's hand found his. Promise me something. Anything. If I die, you're not dying. If I do, don't bury the seed. Don't hide it. Use it. Light the others. He swallowed hard. Not without you. Zari looked up at him, tired but fierce. You already carry half the memory now. The vault changed you too, whether you admit it or not. Trent stared down at her, realizing she was right. He felt it like a humming in his blood. Images, languages, emotions not his own. He was becoming something new. And so was she. The Driftweaver surged forward again, deeper into uncharted space. The path ahead glowed with markers only Zari could see. But Trent had stopped questioning. He'd follow her into the center of the void. If she asked, because she wasn't just the last of her kind. She was becoming something the galaxy had never seen before, and so was he. The stars over the Eris expanse didn't shimmer. They pulsed slowly like the beating heart of some long-dead god. This was where maps ended. This was where systems disappeared and people were erased. A graveyard of light and law. But it was also where the second vault waited. The Driftweaver limped toward the coordinates etched into the seed's memory, held together by willpower, emergency welds, and Trent's quiet determination. Zari lay in the ship's recovery pod, the seed tethered to her with thin glowing filaments that pulsed in time with her breath. She hadn't spoken in hours, her body in a deep trance as her mind unraveled layers of ancient coding stored in her own DNA. Trent sat alone in the cockpit, dark rings under his eyes, watching the endless swirl of radiation storms ahead. He hadn't left her side for days, only getting up to repair hull breaches and reroute power. The AI had gone silent, unable to process the quantum signals the seed had begun emitting. They were beyond the realm of known science now. And ahead outlined against the dead aurora of a neutron star was Vault 2. It was vast, angular, more machine than structure. Unlike the first, this one floated in open space, its surface lined with antennae that hummed in frequencies lower than any human could hear. No door, no beacon, no welcome. Just cold, ancient geometry waiting to be awakened. Trent stood, cracked his knuckles, and walked back to the recovery pod. He knelt beside Zari, brushing a strand of white hair from her forehead. Time to wake up. Starlike, he whispered. As if the seed heard him, its tendrils receded. Zari stirred, eyelids fluttering, her breath sharpening into focus. Her golden eyes opened, no longer soft now. They were burning, alive, empowered. I know what this vault is, she said. What is it? It's not just memory storage, it's defense. The last living construct of Lunari thought. The vault ... is a sentient war machine, Trent blinked. A thinking vault? Designed to activate only when the extinction of thought was near. Zari rose slowly, the seed now fused into the back of her hand like a tattoo of light. That time is now. A pulse rocked the ship, not an attack, a scan. The vault had noticed them. Zari placed her palm on the control panel. The ship trembled. The seed glowed. And outside, the vault responded. Massive panels rotated open. An inner chamber revealed itself, blinding, circular, waiting. Trent piloted the ship inside, gripping the controls. We doing this together? Zari glanced at him. Always. The vault's interior was alive with energy. Data streams danced like wind. The walls shimmered with Lunari text that shifted based on where they looked. In the center was the core, a floating sphere wrapped in bands of translucent crystal, beating like a heart. Zari approached it. If I link with it, it will awaken. The defense grid will deploy to shield the remaining vaults. Trent nodded slowly. And if you do that, what happens to you? I don't know. She stepped forward anyway, but before she reached the core, a voice echoed through the vault. Low, cold, familiar. Too late. Kael stepped from a rift of shadow near the entrance alone, without guards, his obsidian armor glinting with strange energy. His eyes no longer human, no longer his. Zari froze. You shouldn't be here, Kael smiled. I was always here. Even before you were born. Trent raised his weapon. I'll drop you before you get any closer. Kael looked at him, not afraid, but amused. You think this body still matters? The thing you call Kael was consumed long ago. I serve something deeper, the hollow light, the unmaking of thought. And now I've come to silence the last song of the Lunari. Zari stepped in front of the core. You won't touch this. Vault, not while I breathe. Then you'll stop breathing, Kael said. He struck lightning dash fast, powered by a force that bent physics. But Trent moved faster, throwing himself in the way, blaster drawn. The shot struck Kael's chest. The armor cracked. Kael howled. Zari activated the seed. The vault responded instantly. The chamber erupted in light blinding, overwhelming, ancient. The core opened and spoke. Thought defied shall rise again. Zari's body lifted from the floor. Her voice merged with the core's, speaking in harmony. I am memory. I am defense. I am the last echo of freedom. Kael screamed, his body burning from the inside out, his borrowed flesh failing to contain the force of the awakened vault. With one final pulse, Zari extended her hand. Kael was obliterated, unmade at the quantum level. Silence followed. The vault dimmed. The chamber steadied. Trent ran to her as she collapsed, catching her before she hit the floor. Zari! He cried. She opened her eyes, weak but smiling. I held on, she whispered. Because you were here. Trent pulled her close. You? Idiot, you're not allowed to die. Not before you teach me all that weird Lunari swearing. Zari chuckled, barely. You wouldn't survive the first lesson, the vault shimmered. A dozen new symbols lit up around them, coordinates. All vaults. All awakened. The war had begun, but so had the defense. Outside, the Driftweaver powered up, now enhanced by vault tech. It lifted into space. Zari rested in Trent's arms, eyes closed, hand on his chest. You called me small, she murmured. But my love for you, it's bigger than the stars. Trent held her tight, watching the galaxies spin ahead. I know, he whispered. And together they vanished into the light.